This video covers notes from the spinal cord structure and function. You picked up these notes in class, so we're looking at this page, page 1, and we'll get all the way down here to about where it talks about pain control in this video. This goes right along with the PowerPoint that I shared with you through Google Classroom. And these two video clips are pretty interesting. They're short and they cover essential information about the spinal cord and the reflex arc. But the foramen magnum is that hole in the bottom of our skull. Remember, we learned that when we were learning bones. That is where the spinal cord exits the brain. Now, the spinal cord is just an extension of the medulla oblongata. There's no real division mark, like here's where the medulla stops and here's where the brain, the spinal cord starts. It's just kind of a gentle continuation. The spinal cord exits through the foramen magnum, and it goes all the way down to about L2, lumbar 2. And at point lumbar 2, that's that bone in the vertebra, the spinal cord kind of tapers down to a structure we call the conus medullaris. And it's like a little tapered little ice cream cone looking thing. The spinal cord is about as thick as your thumb. It does get thicker here around the cervical area, and it gets thicker again here at the lumbar area. But give or take, it's a nice, soft, squishy collection of neural tissue, and it is totally covered and protected by the vertebral bones. This image gives us a good view. Watch out. Okay. Here is your spinal column. Just kidding. So here's the spinal cord all the way down. And as I mentioned, it tapers off here. Little V-shaped thing called the conus medullaris. And then after that, there is no spinal cord proper. After that, you have some spinal nerves exiting, and it forms this little structure like this called the cauda equina. Now, here is an artist's depiction of what the cauda equina looks like. Remember, cauda equina. Right, use your Latin background. Equine, equestrian. So equina means horse. Cauda on a fish. There's my fish. Right, happy little fish. This is the caudal fin. So caudal simply means tail. So this structure is called cauda equina, which translates to horsetail because this kind of looks like a little ponytail looking thing at the end of a horse. All right, here are just some other images I borrowed from the internet. The entire nervous system. Here you can see the conus medullaris up close. You can see how it kind of tapers down here. And then your just individual nerves here, not a spinal cord proper. And in this image, you can see that they've totally removed the actual vertebral bones, except for this one and this one, and you can see the spinal cord, and you can see the nerves exiting, and you can see the cauda equina. Yay! Okay. There are tons. You have this image. There are tons of spinal nerves. Actually, there are 31 pairs, and that includes all of these cranial nerves. When you get to big college, you can memorize all those cranial nerves, but for right now, we're just going to focus on a couple when we get to diseases. You have this, you pick this up when you got your notes. So you probably want to label all of these. C1. So this nerve right here is the cervical nerve 1, cervical nerve 2, cervical nerve 3. So down here on line, I think that's 9, it's pointing at cervical nerve, thoracic nerve 1, thoracic nerve 2, all the way down to thoracic 12. Then here at line 21, this is pointing at spinal nerve lumbar 1. And then here you have the sacral nerves, the coccygeal nerve, the filum terminal. Filum terminal meaning last fiber, the last little fiber that extends out of the bottom. Now, if you remember, we learned that there were 5 lumbar vertebrae, and there were 12 thoracic vertebrae, and there are 7 cervical vertebral bones. And that's nice because there's 5 lumbar nerves, 5 lumbar bones, 12 lumbar nerves, 12 lumbar bones. But lo and behold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, there are 8 cervical nerves, but there's only 7 cervical bones because the axis up here has a nerve exiting on top of it and exiting below it. So all these are below, and then cervical nerve number 1 is actually on top of the whole vertebral column. All right, if you can look over here, you have this dura mater, just FYI, conus medullaris, we've already talked about that, and the cauda equina, the horsetail, we talked about that. All right, new content, plexus. A plexus is simply a collection of nerves, and these nerves are exiting together, exiting the spinal cord. Right? This first plexus here is looking at the cervical plexus. This line is looking at the cervical plexus. Okay? And they exit up here in the cervical vertebrae. The significant nerve you need to know about in the cervical plexus is the phrenic nerve. The phrenic nerve exits about C4, C5, and it is responsible for controlling your breathing because it connects to your diaphragm. If your phrenic nerve is damaged, your diaphragm doesn't work. If your diaphragm doesn't work, you die, and that's not good. So phrenic nerve, very important nerve of the cervical plexus. Okay, the next collection of nerves that you need to be familiar with is the brachial plexus. Brachial refers to your arm, and the significant nerve out of the brachial plexus is the radial nerve. And the radial nerve runs all the way down your radius, and it's essential for moving your thumb, among other things. But it innervates your thumb so that you can grasp and move and text with your little thumb. It's a pretty important little nerve. We did that. All right, down here, out of the lumbar vertebra, you have the lumbar plexus. The significant nerve here is the femoral nerve. The femoral nerve runs down the front of your leg and controls, among other things, it controls your quadriceps. It innervates your quadriceps. Next, we have the sacral plexus coming out of the sacrum, and the significant nerve that you need to be familiar with is the sciatic nerve. The sciatic nerve runs, remember that sciatic notch we had to know when we learned our bones? The sciatic nerve runs near the sciatic notch or through the sciatic notch, and it goes down the back of your leg. So it innervates your hamstrings, among other things. So here you have all the plexuses that you need to know. In the next slide, it just gives you a nice, pretty picture of each plexus, what the significant nerve is, and the function of that plexus. And we are going to stop and move the next